So if you don't know what the Fiat is basically a bunch of endgame bosses, right? And then you will eventually fight all of them in one arena. So we have Cortex, Chayula, Alluring Abyss, which is Ziri, Uber Ziri, Shaper's Round, which is Shaper, and Absence of Value and Meaning, which is Elder. So ideally, you want to run all of them on Uber versions. So this one makes it Uber Shaper or Uber Elder. This one makes it Uber Cortex, and yeah. You also want to take these small nodes to increase quantity found in Maven's Crucible as well as Wandering Path. So my skill tree isn't set for that because I farmed up a bit more money using Sanctum Rushing. Okay, so let me just quickly go through what you can actually drop from the Fiat and why it's actually so profitable. So ultimately, the Fiat is, in a way, it's somewhat like a controlled gamble, right? It's like none of these items are guaranteed to drop, but if you do sets of like 10 at a time or 20 at a time, like you're definitely gonna be able to drop like some of these items which are very high value. So in terms of Uber Shaper, you'll never lose money doing Uber Shaper if you're using the normal fragments, right? Because you will drop fragment of Shape or Knowledge, which is worth more than the 4 Guardian fragments, alright? So Sublime Vision drops from Uber Shaper and can go for about 9 Divines un-ID'd. You also can drop Starforge. I dropped 1 Starforge with pretty good rolls, so that goes for about 7 to 10 Divines, depending on, how much you're willing to cut yourself to sell it faster. And you also can drop Orb of Dominance, which is about 1.2 Divines each. In terms of Elder, there isn't really too much going on for Elder. You can just pretty much only drop. The only good item is Two Mods Watcher's Eye, which goes for 1.2 Divines un-ID'd, around there. And I actually did half of the sets using the normal Guardian fragments, and then half of it I did using the Uber Elder fragments. So like 5 sets normal fragments, 5 sets Uber Elder fragments. Because I think you do lose money on Uber Elder in the long run, right? Because each set costs about, if I'm not wrong, it's like no, more than 1 point. It's about 2 divines. Yeah, about 2 divines for each set. So if the Watcher's Eye drops every like 3 out of 10 maps, eventually you will lose money doing Uber Elder, but you do get to do it faster, so I guess it's fine. All right. So on to the fun parts, right? So we have Uber Cortex. So Uber Cortex is one of the most toxic bosses out there, right? Depending on the mods that you roll, because I think now the Uber Cortex is bugged. It does triple the implicit modifiers instead of double, like what it says on the node. So some of the mods are really quite unplayable, like 600 elemental, Fizz elemental, and like penetrate 30%, 36% ele rest, things like that, with like turbo. So it really depends. Some of the rolls on Uber Cortex can actually break your run, and you just have to get another one. It's just how it is. But Uber Cortex actually is quite a big source of money. So I dropped quite a lot of bottle faiths. I don't know if it's related to the current like bug with the triple implicit. Maybe it's like weird effects on the quantity of Cortex. I know it doesn't make sense, but I definitely feel like I have been dropping a lot more bottled faiths. I think I dropped about like 7 or 8 bottled faiths over 20 runs. Yeah, so depending on the rolls, it can go from between 3.5 to 6 divines. And also we got this new jewel called Rational Doctrine, which goes for about 20 divines and some good synthesized bases. So I gave some of my bases to my friend to help me sell while I'm away, and I can just say what I got. I got like spell damage implicits on bows. I got +1 power charge shield on an int base, pure int base, so that's probably worth quite a lot of money too. So things like that. Nebulous drops if you get like Explodey or double damage is also money. Garb of the Ephemeral goes for about half a divine. Things like that. Yeah. So Uber Aziri is just bad. Uber Aziri is just a waste of time. But I guess she can drop House of Mirrors, can drop Disfavor, I guess. But I've never seen anything good come off Uber Aziri. In terms of Chayula, kind of the same situation. Chayula itself is very cheap now. It's like 25C for 1 run, so it's really not too bad at all. So you can drop the Blessing as well as a good colored Skin of the Loyal. So this can range from 15C all the way to a few divines each. So I like sold for stuff that has good color. Sometimes I would just use a Blessing. I actually got some bases which sold from 4 to 5 divines, like when I got Mind Over Matter. Alright, so in terms of the Fiat invitation itself, so that's like 80% quantity. Definitely roll for 80 plus quantity with Wandering Path, and you will get 1.2 Maven's Writs each time guaranteed. Alright, so Fiat can drop Flawless Chariola Breachstones, can drop Double Corrupted Uniques. I sold one of them for about 4 divines. And in general, just drops all the other stuff that or the other bosses can drop. Like not the Uber versions that you will not find like rational doctrine from the Uber bosses. I mean from Fiat itself, but it can drop all the other stuff like flask, right? So I did drop I think 2 flasks from the Fiat itself. So yeah, in the end, Fiat is pretty much a massive gamble, but it's a controlled gamble, right? If given enough sets, you will definitely make profit off this. For my first 10 sets, I only made 23 divines profit, but my next one I made about 95 divines profit. So I think you will still make profit, just depends on your drops, right? And you'll even out in the end as long as you keep doing it. And honestly, I think if you are able to clear the Fiat quick, it is really quite amazing, right? It's like everything is priced in divine, so you are not really subjected to the price of chaos as much, right? Because if you're doing general mapping strats with small currency, bubblegum currency dropping, like there's a big problem to convert everything to divines, right? It's really quite volatile. So fiat farming, everything sells in divine, so it is very, very good. All right, the second part to this is actually Sanctum rushing. So I average about 2 divines per run. Sometimes I'll get 3 to 6 divines per run as well. The main game changer now is that invocations drop if you're using the special relics. So once again, this is really dependent on your build that you're running. Invocations, like let's say glancing blows, was selling for 6 divines, elemental equilibrium, mind over matter, things like that. They all go for several divines each. So it's actually quite profitable now, and the average of 2 divines is in terms of raw divines. If you were to sell all the stack decks and sextants, things like that, you're definitely gonna make about 5 to 6 divines an hour for sure. So I think that's about it. This isn't really a strat guide because yeah, as I've said, I have no time to record and write down everything that I have because I am leaving overseas today. So yep, I hope that this probably helps some of you to farm a few more divines if you're rushing for the mage blood and things like that. And yeah, that's all for me today, and I wish you all the best. Merry Christmas, everybody, and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching Wet Puddle. Bye bye.